Catus. Maximus here. This is just a, I always say it's a short video about these older, I believe made in 1970s, Irwin wood handled general purpose screwdrivers. Received several comments over the time I've had this channel about what I thought about wooden handle screwdrivers, and they're still made, not by Irwin, but there's some, a lot of cheap ones, which I don't recommend because the handles just, fall apart and they don't have very good steel. But I wanted to wait till I found a proper representative pair of screwdrivers, and this would be the proper representative set. We have a 6-inch flathead screwdriver and then a Phillips head screwdriver. Of course, with Irwin's, these were before Irwin sold out in other, their products aren't particularly good anymore. They're just a name. When companies like this are initially sold, it's because a lot of times this isn't just because the executives and shareholders of the initial corporation are just looking for a way out. Sometimes they are just to cash out, and many times they see it as the most viable alternative to keeping the brand around. The problem is once you sell your company, then somebody else has control of it, and then they get bought out or resell it, and then it gets a little too far where they just keep the name around, but the products that they were representative aren't around anymore. And that's how you originally build up a reputation. And it's always kind of a shame because when they buy out these companies, they should probably realize that really to hold the name out, you still got to make proper tools. Kind of like Milwaukee. People were really concerned when Milwaukee got bought out by TTI, and it is a Chinese company. But at least they've tried to stay true to Milwaukee. They do have quite a bit of resources still in the United States, and they're not just turning them into a total junk brand. They're turning, Milwaukee tools are still pretty respectable, especially their cordless line. They have a huge amount of cordless tools. Anyway, wood handle screwdrivers, like them. They're not super duty. They're more of a general purpose ones. These are probably ones I'm going to give to my dad. Wood handles are nice because they're just insulating, so every time you grip onto them, they always have a warm feel because of that. I do like the square handles, and just because of the nature of wood, they're always just kind of comfortable. One with the flathead, it's actually a little bit more robust because you do have a square stock. It is 1/4-inch square on this, a reinforcing collar. On the Phillips, the reinforcing collar is just a little bit loose. The one thing about these, and particularly the Phillips, really you have to wrench pretty hard on the flathead to get the handle to break. The Irwins do use a better quality wood, although there are some modern ones which are expensive, which use really nice hardwoods, etc. But these were, a hardware store item. Is the fact that it's a 2-wing style, like they might use an acetate handle screwdriver. So if you really wrench, particularly on the Phillips, you can strip out the wood. One thing I also found interesting, let's get there, get a little closer. On the Phillips one, they did do this nice roll stamp. You can even see where the edge of the roll stamp hit the stock there. Back when the Phillips was still patented, you had to license this design. So that would date this tool, that's for sure. Chrome vanadium, it isn't a new material. And then just a number 2, and then of course the back edge of the roll stamp. So I think that's a little bit funny. Anyway, they didn't put that stamp on the square stock on the flathead, so I thought that was pretty interesting as well. They are true because it is rated as a 6-inch screwdriver, and you indeed get 6 inches of blade. So these Irwins are pretty nice. It's always hard to tell if it's a genuine Irwin because they just do a silk screen there. So finding ones like this, even though this one has had a bit of use, this is exactly the kitchen hardware drawer kind of screwdrivers. If you just need to tighten a cabinet screw, they are nice that way. But in that era, 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, you might want to look for one of these Miller's Falls. You recognize the red handles, and you have to find their super fine stamp that they put on them. But the Miller's Falls had a 5/16 stock, so they were a bit heavier duty than, of course, the Irwin wood handles. Although the Miller's Falls are a little bit more expensive, but for about the same price, you could have got, in the 70s, a much heavier duty screwdriver. So the wood handles for me are more nostalgic. Is this screwdriver or even this screwdriver going to hold up like one of these demolition screwdrivers that they have now? Even a Milwaukee one. the miller's files would hold up, reasonably well, but of course you would just end up destroying this. You'd never want to hammer. If you started using a hammer on a wood handle screwdriver, you'd just drive the handle down the shank of the screwdriver, split open the handle. So that's kind of the nature of wood handle screwdrivers, is they are not, super duty screwdrivers, but they're just general purpose hardware drawer. I wouldn't, really spend a bunch of money on them, because unless you're really into tools like me. And some people on eBay try to list these things for like $10 and $20 per screwdriver. And if you're into collecting old tools, then that's totally fine. For me, I haven't really been into the wood handle screwdrivers, just because, a lot of the tools that I try to get a hold of, tend to be the more heavier duty versions, industrial or, truly professional. These were really nice, but these were just general purpose rated screwdrivers using good quality steel, but you didn't want to really use them under severe situations. And so that's my review. And in my case, they happen to be a couple of original Irwins. And they always had this kind of weird rule, so where it's made in US of A. That was always amusing, because they were one of the few companies that ever printed it like that. But some nice old Irwins. They indeed are chrome vanadium steel, and we can even see this one that's been used quite a bit. It's okay. It's okay. It's still totally usable, maybe a little bit chewed up. These are not what you would consider JIS standard, but it still has a pretty good shape to it. And I guess that's about all you can really say about a couple of Irwin wood handle screwdrivers, but just wanted to put a video out there just about my general opinion on wood handle screwdrivers, as well as these Irwins, which would have been a common model, common wood handle screwdriver that you may have found in decades past. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out. And what am I doing? I even demonstrated. The tip's a little bit thick on the flathead to use on something like this, but of course this is what a screwdriver like this would be for. Generally speaking, the wood screwdrivers actually have less electrical insulation than just an acetate handle, because of course wood can hold moisture, which is conductive, and then they have this collar, so your finger's going to be really close. Versus, if you might be working on something electrical, you can hold an acetate handle at the end. You can do that with a wood one too, but wood is not as insulating as plastic in that situation. Okay, till next video.